So hi folks, thanks for dropping by. So I'm an acrylic painter. I trained myself as a teenager to work with acrylic paint by painting the panels on the backs of denim jackets. And what that did for me is it gave me a lot of different styles I had to mimic, because in the late 70s and early 80s, what people were doing was they were taking that V-shaped panel on the back of the denim jacket and painting an album cover on the back of that. So I did that for a lot of high school. And I was copying photographs, and I was copying other pieces of art, and I was copying pencil drawings, and whatever was on the cover of an album, I was putting on the backs of people's jackets. So I started to kind of figure out how to work with acrylic. A little tricky for some folks because it dries so quickly, and it makes blending very difficult. But there are ways to get around that and to still achieve blended looks with acrylic paint if you know a few tricks. And one of the things that I use is like this guy right here, to keep the paint wet, and so it moves all the time. And I'll put a little bit of this on my palette to keep my paint from drying out. I will also put a little bit of this directly onto the painting to keep the paint from drying too. So, can you see these two cards?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So normally I would I have a drawing board that I would affix my card work to, and sometimes I will frame out the card, and so it's got a nice paint finish around it, but more often than not, for my purposes, I like to leave a natural edge to the painting. So now that one's got an element right up near the top, so I'm going to move that piece of tape a little bit. There is a real intensity to using color straight out of the tubes. It's where the pigment is the purest, and you'll get the brightest colors if you can do that. So it is nice to have color at your disposal. But I sometimes work with a very limited palette. There's a couple of pieces coming up in Arthurian Legends that may be painted with like 3 colors. I'll have to thank Alan for leaving these here.
Do you typically enjoy working with a limited palette?
Yeah, I tend to be drawn to a limited palette. Like when I see other people that have done it, and it just, like, I love that look, the kind of controlled lighting that limited palette means working with, you know, the whole 64 box of crayons, but maybe you're just picking 3 or 4 and trying to get all the variations in your painting to work with balances of those 3 or 4 colors. It's really hard to do, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of have to force myself to think of it as like a grayscale painting, like if I was just doing a black and white painting. I think the most successful piece I have done with a limited palette, I did a painting called The Thing in the Weeds. If you Google my name and The Thing in the Weeds, you'll find a picture of it. It's a bunch of guys on the deck of a boat being attacked by a giant squid, but they don't know they're being attacked yet. But the tentacles kind of hanging over them, and that's done in kind of like Payne's gray, which is a dark blue, gray, green, and white. And there's the only other color in that piece is a little bit of tint of yellow from one of the guy's lanterns, right? But it really fits for that subject matter. It's cold. It looks old-timey. It really puts you in the right. Speaking of viewing place, how we doing? Oh, if I put my hand here, it's gonna block the camera. So that's that camera. Okay.
So if you actually turn your entire
Yep.
self a little bit.
I'm just gonna push over here a bit. Okay. Right, blue greens. Okay. So white is a very strange thing in acrylic. It's not like you're gonna thin out your color. It actually adds a lot of is the right phrase. It means thickness. It's if you want your colors to be transparent, you can't use any acrylic white. If you want them to be covering, then white is your friend. But you have to nurture those experiences along until you get used to what you want out of the paint, and it becomes like a muscle memory almost. So even though I've got this drawing all down on the sunken treasure piece, I'm pretty much now going to almost cover it all back up. Goes to the pencil drawing is going to come through the blue that I'm going to put down, and I'm even going to go with a bigger brush than this one, which, like I said before, is really rare for card work. But in this case, because it's an undersea piece, that blue is going to kind of be, so I'm just going to put a coat of it down first. So I'm just kind of playing around it, try and get the nice balance of my colors. Just want that blue to kind of permeate everything. Okay.
Do they give you a card that you're trying to paint, or do they just give you like a vague?
Well, they always give you a name, but it might not be the name that the card actually has when it comes out. Because sometimes as they're playtesting, something might happen that might influence them to want to change it. Or they might give it some sort of nickname that will carry on later. The best, I want to just check the time here because I don't want to, okay. Probably the best story I did for a card title was the Ogre card that I did for the base set. Yeah. I did that piece and I wasn't real happy with the finish. I thought that the ogres were very goofy looking as opposed to threatening. The card was originally called Rage Ogres, so I wanted them to be looking like they were hulking out, almost like they were flying into anger. But I said to Eric that I wasn't real pleased with it, and I thought the ogres looked goofy. So then the card comes out, and instead of saying Rage Ogres, it says Ogre Goons. So I think Eric did that because he said, and I'm kind of really happy he did that because now I feel like the painting fits the card title a lot better. So, yeah. But I'll empty the room so that the next thing can get in. If you have any further questions, come by the table and we can take it up there. And there is going to be a more general Q&A tomorrow, both on my own and with a group of other artists. I think towards the end of the day, I think there's one where we're all going to be together. So, thanks a lot for stepping by.